Enable Ventures is a firm, the entry point of which is looking at companies who are in product market fit. They're typically in revenue and they're in Series A or seed stage capital. And essentially, we look at such things as upskilling and reskilling solutions for workers. You remember that skills gap I was talking about, where it's conspicuous that people with disabilities have overrepresentation in manual skills trades. I used to call this New Deal to Real Deal, that there are so many people with disabilities still in New Deal era training. And yet now we're seeing a revolution in digital technology that is allowing people to access skills training from home, remote, and flexibly. These are the kinds of solutions that people with disabilities invented, frankly, since 1990, have been asking for remote work and access to solutions from home. It is a rich irony that the rest of society enjoyed those benefits during the pandemic. It was people with disabilities that pioneered this demand for flexible work solutions. So we're also looking at work solutions that will identify talent wherever it lives and match it with employers who are in search of disability inclusive talent. We've seen two-sided marketplaces that are using AI and machine learning. And you hear a lot about this, Lori, about machine AI screening people out. And we're looking at products and solutions that are materially screening people in on the basis of their disability, on the basis of the built-up demand from employers to find disability diverse talent pipelines. We're looking at things like next generation captioning. Captioning has improved so much in recent years with tech innovation that it has a very high percentage accuracy. And here's the thing, Wall Street Journal the other week had on its front page that Gen Z prefers captioning whether they're deaf and hard of hearing or not. They're looking at content on multiple digital devices at once, and they want captioning and they demand it. This is what's next. We hear from enterprise employers all the time that when they deploy captioning at work, that it's the employees who aren't deaf and hard of hearing but have learning disabilities or have trouble taking notes or miss a moment and need to come back to their computer and they have notes to be able to follow along. So these are turnkey commercialized solutions. They're way out of a medical lane that are accessible and available for people with disabilities. We're looking at digital assistants that understand dysartic speech and alternative speech patterns. When you think about it, if you've had a stroke or you have ALS or another type of disability, now cars are enabled by speech. Now any kind of digital assistant, refrigerators. And yet there is a whole group of people across the world that are locked out of those technologies because of their speech recognition technology. And yet what we find is when those solutions are deployed to market, they also deal with people with accents and people with other use of language. So there's universal design that has abundant and material benefits to the whole consumer market. We're seeing things like consumer apps like, that you would think is akin to Yelp, that tells somebody before you leave your house if a restaurant is architecturally accessible. My father had a lung transplant, but in the years preceding that operation, we lived in terror about leaving the house because we weren't sure when he was on oxygen if he needed to climb a flight of stairs to get into the restaurant. There's millions of people around the world that live every day with the anxiety of not being sure of their destination, whether it's a travel destination, a restaurant, a place of public accommodation, whether it's actually architecturally accessible. And yet there's this worldwide movement with founders to open source that information, to make sure it's correct, to give consumers this better customer service. And what we find when those types of solutions are deployed to market, people with baby strollers say thank you. People who are looking for any number of reasons for architectural accessibility are using these apps, are using these digital solutions. We're looking at brain-computer interface in the disability market now. Ways that, Ray Kurzweil, who's an inventor and an author who's talked about the singularity is near, the singularity between people and machines. Well, it's the disability community that continues to insist and inject values into the core of how technology is growing. that if people and machines become dependent, that the technology will neutralize differences where appropriate, but keep the core culture and value of disability at its heart, and the core social purpose and social benefit of keeping that technology inclusive and accessible. So that is a very quick, high-level understanding of what the market looks like these days.